Alright guys, how's it going? Steve, Interglobal Comics. Gonna do a quick kind of a end of the month market report. I've kind of just gone down to doing, basically it looks pretty much like 2 a month. There's not quite as many sales as was going on a few months ago, so I'm just kind of compiling a bigger list and just doing probably 2 market reports a month. I'll be out of town for a couple weeks coming up, so I probably won't put out another one for a while, but here we go. All right, starting out with Australia. Got a 1950s Australian super adventure comics. Typically, I think these were world's finest comics that were kind of redone for the Australian market. Kind of a goofy cover. Batman and Superman and Superboy riding a 3-man bicycle, but apparently people wanted it because it was sold for $328. Thought this was interesting. X-Force 1 Australian price variant. These were, I think everyone had some of these when they were, a kid in the 90s. Everyone thought these were going to be the next like X-Men 1. They're going to be worth tons of money one day. But these on the American version sells for nothing really. But the Australian price variant sold for $55.60. So pretty cool that it sold for that premium. A couple more Australian price variants. That New Mutants 98 9.0 sold, I think it seems pretty cheap. I'm pretty sure I've seen that sell for way more than that in the past. And then interestingly enough, just this raw Spider-Man 2099 Australian price variant sold for $621. So that's a massive sale for a book that sells for $25-30 on the American market. So those Australian price variants are really demanding a premium. This is kind of a cool book. I thought about bidding, but I'm glad I probably didn't because I wouldn't have bid nearly that much. It's a Showcase 4, but the Australian edition, I believe this is from like the 1950s, and it was, or I guess it says first Silver Age Flash, so probably late 50s, early 60s. Sold for $425. With 9 bids, so looks to be in pretty good shape. It has a pretty big crease down the middle, but that could probably be pressed out. So a pretty cool book. This 1954 Buck Rogers, kind of an annoying eBay ad with all the pictures they added to it, the emojis. But 6.0 Buck Rogers sold for $686. And another Australian price variant that's kind of almost worthless on the American market, but is getting a premium because of the Australian price on it. The Thunderstrike 1 sold for $50. We got a lot of 5 Star Wars comics from Brazil. So these were under the Hulk title, but they're actually like the Empire Strikes Back movie adaptation. So it sold for $166. Pretty strong price there. I feel like the Empire Strikes Back story adaptation normally doesn't sell for nearly as much as the like the A New Hope story does, but still cool books. These are digest size books from the 80s, it looks like. Another one of these Amazing Spider-Man 129s. This one I might have had on the last market report, I'm not sure. This one went for $125. And this is the kind of the most recent Brazilian Spider-Man 129 from 2017. Kind of a cool cover, how the background is all, basically it's almost like clip art. Everything's made out of clip art. It looks really cool. Sold for $50, so that's a pretty strong price for these. These you can, if you could find someone in Brazil to sell it to you you could probably get it for less than $20, I would think. This is a Tarzan 16. Looks like an E-Ball comic. This is the first appearance of Turok, so 4-color, $5.96. It says very low grade, but it sold for $300. Pretty cool book. It says low grade, so it must have some major spine issues or something, because on the cover it looks pretty nice to me. But pretty cool book overall. I'd actually never seen this one before. I've seen the Mexican. There's a couple different Mexican versions, but this Brazilian I'd never seen. These are some of those Dark Knight, Batman, Death Metal covers. This is the Brazil, sold for $57.98, and a 9.6 sold for $31. So really, after grading and buying these comics and shipping them from Brazil, probably not really worth the money it costs to do it. This is a bunch of Mexican X-Men 1 variants, some signed by Jim Lee, so it includes the American and the Mexican. So that one sold for $128. This one sold for $113. This one sold for $152, and this one sold for $122. This one I don't see where it was signed by Jim Lee. I don't know. Maybe it was. It's hard to tell. But pretty cool books. Pretty strong prices on those. Because X-Men 1 was, I think, the most printed comic in history. But those Mexican ones are pretty cool looking. I'm not sure if they're foil or if they're just redone colors or what, but great nostalgic comics for those of us that were into comics in the 90s, and that was kind of my obsession, was around this time with the X-Men. So this was a Mexican Superior Spider-Man 20, J. Scott Campbell, a couple Black Cat variants, and the other one's the Spider-Man 4. One sold for $120, the other one for $60. A real low-grade copy of Los Hombres X-56, which is the first appearance of HAVOK. Obviously, because it looks like it has some moisture damage. But the strange thing is, like, almost every one of these I've seen has, like, some sort of weird moisture damage on it, where it looks like maybe from the publisher they were stuck together, or maybe they got stacked up while the ink was still really wet. I don't know, but almost every single one I've seen has had some issue with it. So $25, probably some of that you could press out. So someone got a pretty good deal there. Definitely a lower grade copy, but still just a cool book to have. This is a lot of Edge of Spider-Verse, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and it comes with a variant covers and the regular. Sold for $100, so super low sale there for that. I think I've mentioned in the past, just that the the Land variant used to sell for over around $300, the Mexican version. So definitely a low sale there. Maybe the market just got flooded with too many of these. G.I. Joe #1 from Mexico looks to be in pretty nice shape. I've heard from a few different people that collect the G.I. Joe comics that this is a pretty tough one to find. This one sold for $60, and if it's like the other vid comics, I believe it's digest size, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Spawn 9-2, the Mexican edition, was signed by Todd McFarlane, sold for $250. And another lot of these Hulk Star Wars comics from Brazil. So this is like a private, this one and the other one were private listings. So someone was making a deal on eBay with a Brazilian seller and getting some of these. This one sold for $120. More of the foils from Mexico. The Hulk 181, it's one for $55. And then a very low grade copy of Fantastic 452. It had a full spine split and detached cover. Sold for $25. That was a fun comic because this is the one where they made the Black Panther white on the cover. Or actually, I think he was supposed to be Mexican. I don't know. He's got pretty white skin, but he's got like a little mustache going on, so it's kind of interesting how they redid the face. These are a couple Fantastico Editorial Soul from the late 50s. These are Mexican, I believe, and these sold. I didn't look up the sold price on these, but they looked pretty nice condition, kind of like sci-fi covers, but somewhere under $300. This one was kind of weird because these have been out for a while now. This is a Spider-Man 121 Lamole foil, and I guess it comes with a Superman one also, so it's kind of a combo deal. Sold for $100. So yeah, it's a pretty strong price for those because they've been out for a little while. Spider-Man 678, the Lamole, sold for $99. It's pretty nice condition. La Prensa Hombreranas. We got Spider-Man number 9, sold for sold for $1,000. And then number 8 sold for $1,500. That's a 6.0. So pretty pretty hard to find in books there. Definitely not something you're going to stumble upon every day. So I think probably the buyer made out pretty well on those. I'd have to look to see how much those sell, the American versions sell for, but it's always interesting to kind of see what the difference is between the American and the Mexican, or just all the different countries in general. It's Amazing Fantasy 15 9.8, the blacked out cover foil that they came out with this year, or I guess last year. $199 for the 9.8. This was the Marvel Spotlight 5 Mexican edition, pretty low grade copy. And I was wondering, I was like, why did this sell for so much? And then I realized that it was signed by Stan Lee and I believe a couple other guys. So pretty cool, any foreign with some sort of signature on it from a big figure in the comic world. It's always a cool thing to see. It's more of the older foils. Giant Size X-Men 1 from Mexico, it's $59, and the Wolverine 1 sold for $59 as well. Pretty big sale. This one's been, I believe, sitting on eBay for a while, and it finally sold just the other day. Werewolf by Night 32. This is a Spain edition, the Vertice. It's a really hard book to find. A few have kind of come out of the woodwork over the last couple of years, but definitely not something that pops up very readily. There is actually one currently at auction on Todo Colección, the Spanish website, but it is from a seller that does a bunch of restoration on his books, like really terrible restoration, and it looks like he glued the back cover on and probably did a bunch of color touch on it as well, because that's kind of what he's known for. But I think he's selling it for like 170 euros, or that's the starting price of the auction, so we'll see if it sells. But this one was in much better condition and sold for almost $1,000. I've actually got 2 at CGC right now, so I'm kind of excited to see. Hopefully, in these Spanish comics, you just never know if they're going to come back restored or not. I'm hoping it doesn't come back restored, and I will be probably selling one of those on eBay, kind of using this as a basis price. So we'll see, and it might sit there for a year, or it could sell. You just never know. These are the Spanish X-Men Classic, the first appearance of Juggernaut. So these were printed in 1993. So for a pretty common and new book, this is a pretty strong price, $99. All right, so this is the Hulk 340 iconic cover, McFarlane. These are the magazine size El Sol comics that came with like the Sunday newspaper in Spain. So this one sold for just under $60. So the price has kind of gone down, and the demand I think has gone down a little bit on these, because a lot of the foreign sourcers were getting full runs of these, as many as they could. So I'm not seeing as many showing up on the Spanish market, and the ones that are selling on the American market don't seem to be selling for quite as much. But we'll see, and it's all supply and demand, so I don't think there can be a ton of these just laying around in Spain, given that they were, like an insert in the Sunday newspaper from the 90s. So, to find them in good condition, that from that long ago is gonna be difficult. And none of these I've ever seen have ever been bagged or boarded, just because they're very big, oversized magazine size. The wedding issue, the Mexican La Prensa, or it's the Mexican La Mole foil edition. That was kind of controversial how it got released. This one sold for $150. Word on the street that I'm hearing is that CGC is no longer slabbing these. I'm not exactly sure why. I don't really know much about it. So if you're one of those people that got some slabbed, I have one. I know a few guys got them slabbed. Definitely hang on to them because the demand for those will probably go up now that CGC won't slab anymore. This seemed like a pretty cheap sale. German Superman versus Muhammad Ali. These always seem to sell for around $100 from what I've seen, no matter really what country it's from, $100 or more. But this one is the German edition, sold for $37. Just another reminder to not run auctions right now with foreign comics. Fantastic Four, 48, 49, 50, sold for $125, so a great price there. Journey into Mystery 83, $149. Spider-Man 101 sold for $50. So this is all the same seller. He sells every Sunday. He lists basically the exact same books over and over again. So I think he just has like a massive stack of these German and Italian keys. So he's just been stacking them for years, and now he's just been selling them all off. And I'm sure he's making a killing doing it because I'm sure he got these when they were really inexpensive. So this is the seller in Greece that sells kind of half completed sets. This is a lot of 5 Spider-Man 316s. So you got looks like a Greek, a Spanish, an Italian, the Netherlands, and then the German edition. So $200, not a bad price. Just trying to get all 5 of those shipped from their respective countries, you'd probably spend at least $100 just in shipping. Superman, Batman 4, Printer's Proof, number 7, Michael Turner, Ultra Rare. I'm not exactly sure what it means, printer proof. This is just a great looking cover. These sell for good money. I'm surprised this one hasn't been sent to CGC already, but it sold for $6.99. This was a low-grade copy of Spider-Man 129 from Germany. Writing all in the cover, kind of really worn spine. Looks like an added staple. Sold for $36. And then a much nicer version sold for $150. I'm always confused by why these sell for so much. This is the Spider-Man 4 German that just literally came out this year. And I realized, or not just this year, it's 2 years ago, 2021. I realized it's limited to 333, but it's also doesn't contain the story inside, and it's printed, years after the original. I don't know, I think I've seen some sell for $300 plus, so even $180 seems a little too steep. Seems like, these should be selling probably $50 to $100, but supply and demand, I guess, if, people are willing to pay it, and I think that 333, print run really gets people interested in these German keys, so, that's probably why. But I'm surprised this sells for more than like the Ghost Spider or some of the other German blue box variants that came out, a few years ago. This was one of my sales, Fantastic Four, number 5, the Italian edition, the first print that was printed inside a Snoopy comic. This one, I took a best offer on this one. I think it was a little bit over $50. I'd hope to sell it for more, but it's just kind of one of those things. It's like an oversized, thick book, and I just don't really have room to store it, and I needed to kind of sell off some stuff to make room for that X-Men one I bought. So accept $50 offer, and made money on it, so I'm not going to complain. Spider-Man 122. This is like the reprinted Italian version, the L'Uomo Ragno Classic run, which I believe is from either the late 90s or early 2000s. Sold for $53. It's a pretty strong price on that book, because you can probably find that for, I would think, less than $10 on Italian eBay. Fantastic Four Annual 6, first appearance of Franklin Richards, Annihilus, sold for $73.80. Pretty nice looking copy. Ultimate Fallout 4, the Italian edition, sold for $325, so it's a pretty strong sale for that one. Pretty low sale, especially since they accepted a best offer. Fantastic Four 48. I think I paid about this price for a much crappier copy a few years ago, so I think this one sold pretty cheap. $3.99 for this 9/8 Italian Captain Marvel 14, first Kamala Khan, signed by Amanda Connor. Yeah, these are beautiful in person. I've got one that I've thought about selling, but I thought about sending to CGC also, so I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with it. I'm not a huge Kamala Khan fan. Didn't really like the show very much. Kind of liked the first couple episodes and then just like totally lost interest in it. So we'll see what happens with that. Maybe she'll get better as time goes on. Another one of those is classic Loam. I can't pronounce it. The Ragno Classic as Spider-Man 129. This is the third print in Italy, I believe. Sold for $55. Supergirl Legion of Superheroes 23. It's Adam Hughes classic Supergirl cover from Italy. Sold for $145. All right, so the Italian market, you got to be careful because there's somebody now printing reprints in Italy and selling them for a lot of money, especially onto the American market. And so this is Amazing Fantasy 15, which is the L'Uomo Ragno 18. It does not have the Amazing Fantasy 15 story inside. Awesome cover, great book, but they're reprinting it now, and it's hard kind of to tell what's the reprint and what's the original. And they're charging $150 for the reprint, which you could get yourself a low-grade copy of the original for that same price. So this guy, at one point they were advertising it as like the Sicilian variant, so they weren't even calling it a reprint. But now they're calling it a reprint. So at least they're kind of stating better what it is, that it's not the actual original comic. This is Special Marvel Edition 15. I think I looked that one up. Yeah, sold for $100. This is French Canadian. This was my sale. Teen Titans 2, first appearance of Deathstroke. I believe I accepted a best offer for $65 on that one. Tomb of Dracula 10. This was a pretty low grade copy. I believe it was pulled from a bind, if I remember correctly. Sold for less than $180. I don't think I looked that one up. Two terrible sales for this Ultimate Fallout 4. What is this? This is the French edition. 9.0 and a 9.2. One sold for $41 and one sold for $96. At the peak of the Miles Mania, someone bought one of these raw for $800. So it's pretty big, pretty big price fall there. I bet the seller that sold these, I'm sure, is not at all happy with those sales. This is a pretty cool book that has come up for auction a couple times in the last month. Didn't sell the first couple times, I don't think, but now this time did have one bidder for $800. The French Canadian Hulk 181 signed by Stan Lee, and then for some reason also signed by Steranko. I'm not really sure why, but I think just having that Stan Lee signature on there is pretty cool. It looks like it's got a few signatures on there. Amazing Spider-Man 252, the French edition, sold for $125. That's pretty strong sale, and this is actually the album version. So this thing is like the size of a textbook. It's super thick, kind of cool, kind of weird. Yeah, you definitely, if you're gonna start collecting these albums, you better have space for them because they're massive. Star Wars 1 from France. This one sold pretty cheap, $89. These have been kind of, in the past, kind of hard to find. So this seller could have probably asked more because these don't come up for sale too often. Pretty cool book, kind of a redrawn cover. and interior is the Star Wars New Hope adaptation. All right, so this book, Amazing Spider-Man 1 from Italy, sold for, I think, $200. This, to me, does not look like an original comic. This looks like a reprint that the seller, and nowhere in their ad did they say it was a reprint. I've never seen one in this good a condition, and one of these in this good a condition, if it was original on Italian eBay, would sell for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and definitely they wouldn't be selling on American eBay for less than $250, especially because, and we'll look at it, the back cover, doesn't really look right. The print colors don't look right. The interior is like way too clean and glossy. Definitely doesn't look like the original paper used in Cornos. Way too white of paper for a book that was supposed to have been printed in 1971. And it has the poster, which is almost impossible to find in these books. So I actually emailed the seller and said, hey, just so you know, I don't think that's an original comic. Just to play it safe, you might want to double check, and I would hate for you to sell this all the way from Italy and have the buyer return it. But they never responded, and the book sold the next day. So it is what it is. If you bought this book, quadruple check that this thing's authentic, because it definitely looks like a reprint to me. But hey, I could be completely wrong, and someone just sold the nicest copy I've ever seen for half the price you could find it on the American market. So moving on, 119 for this giant size X-Men 1 from France. Great redrawn, repainted cover, sold for 120. A couple Russians sold 9/8 slabs. These Russians haven't really gone anywhere lately. It just seems like a lot of people were slabbing them, and a whole bunch were able to hit the market, especially of the Spider-Man 129. Definitely the Moon Knight has less copies in America than the 129, because that was one of the later imports. But still cool books. These were just printed a couple years ago, so they don't really deserve to get a ton of money, but they're just cool to see them in 9/8, on the American market. $225 for this Empire Strikes Back weekly, first appearance of Boba Fett. This predates the American Boba Fett comic, so that pretty decent price there for a 4.0. The fact that it's slabbed in that magazine slab alone pretty much makes it worth the cost, because that person had to probably have waited close to a year to get that back. Dracula Lives 21 and 20. First appearance of Blade, sold for $70. It's kind of a lower price. I've seen those sell for much more than that, but I didn't really look too hard into the condition of the book. I can see that it's already got ink on the cover, so maybe there are some condition issues with them. 282 Mighty World of Marvel 198, first appearance of Wolverine, the UK edition, sold for $284. Strong sale here for Silver Age UK lot of comics. These Fantastics, these used to be super easy to find. You could just pick up all the keys on UK eBay for under $10 a piece, but they've really dried up, and you got to pay up now for the key books. So this one sold for $329. So pretty cool lot, and it's cool to see these books get some respect. Another Hulk 181 UK edition sold for $400. Best offer accepted. So that's about as high of a price I think I've seen as on a raw copy. So that's a pretty strong sale there. And this one has two pieces of the story. In order to get the full Wolverine story arc, you have to have, I think, 5 comics. That includes 180, 181, and 182. So this has 2 parts of that story for $379. So Eerie Tales, the British edition, number 1, sold for $55. And this is probably the biggest steal I've seen in a while. Alan Class old vintage British comics featuring Iron Man. Makes no mention that it includes the Tales of Suspense 39 UK version. And this went for 550 pounds, which probably is right around, I'd say $700, right around there. And this thing was pretty amazing condition. So, that's like probably a 5.0, maybe higher, 6.0 maybe, if you get it pressed and cleaned. Pretty impressive copy. I definitely would have bought that had I seen it to upgrade my 3.0 that I have currently. But I didn't, the description, you're not going to get a lot of people searching most people search for the exact title, not just for Allen class. So someone got a steal there for sure. This is one of my sales, 4-color 129 Argentinian edition, the Brer Rabbit Song of the South. This was, I think, from 1942, around there, so it's really old, Golden Age comic. Pretty rough shape, but I think somebody bought it for $150, so I was happy with that. I actually had quite a bit invested in it. I think I paid, after shipping from Argentina, I think I paid over probably like right around $100. So not really a great sale for me. I would hope to have sold it for more, but gotta pay off the rest of that X-Men one, so I gotta make some sacrifices. So this book was sold just this past week. Another one I sold is just the always popular Darkhawk 1 Spanish edition. This one's sold for $15. At the height of the pandemic kind of bubble that we had going on, and you could just import these all day long and sell them for $30 on Instagram, no problem at all. But people were just spending money like crazy back then. Didn't really care what it was, they were just buying it all. So definitely things have kind of slowed down for some of these like minor keys, but still fun book. Secret Wars 8 Spanish edition sold for, I think this one sold for $65. And this one's actually getting shipped to Mexico, I believe. So kind of cool. See a Spanish comic go to Mexico, and they had this comic in Mexico also, but I believe it was Novedades printed it. Here's a couple more of my sales. Shazam 28. Mexican edition. So I had a guy in Mexico reach out to me saying he's like the biggest Shazam collector, that he needs this for his collection. He sent me all these pictures of his like crazy Black Adam, Shazam toys and comics, all the different stuff he had. So I was like, all right. He's like, I'll pay you $50 for it. That's all I can afford. I was like, all right, whatever. I'll take a hit with the price just to help you out. And the guy just never paid. Like sent him multiple messages, waited a week, and then finally I was like, whatever, just canceled the sale, and then immediately somebody else bought it for full price. So I was happy. It sucks for the Shazam guy in Mexico. Too bad. Didn't work out. Whatever happened, but it's off to somebody that could pay for it and appreciated it. This is another one of my sales, Incredible Hulk Annual 1 from Denmark. This one was a pretty low-grade copy, had a piece of tape on the cover, a clipped corner, but it sold for, I think, $69. This was the Uncanny X-Men 133 from Spain, with the redrawn cover by Lopez Espy, first solo story, Wolverine, sold for $50. And I think that is it. So, like I said, I'll be going out of town for a couple weeks, going down to Puerto Rico. Actually, I'm going just for like a week or so. So I probably won't be able to kind of keep track of the market very well while I'm down there. But I will come back in a few weeks and make a video and kind of pick up from where I left off. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a great night.